Welcome to the McLaren Technology Centre in Woking, and today we've had the launch of McLaren's 2022 Formula One car, the MCL 36. I'm joined by Autosport's Grand Prix editor, Alex Kalinauckas. Alex, talk us through what we've seen today, finally seeing another real car be unveiled ahead of the new season.
We've seen the actual car, the MCL 36, as you say, Luke. No, renders, no just livery, although we'll get to that in a bit, don't you worry. The physical car, McLaren said we can be very proud of launching that. You think already there's a little bit of mind games going on. Who could that be having a dig at? Red Bull, and well deserved as well, because it was a bit of an insult that I thought the Red Bull did by pretending it was their 2022 car. But yes, saw the actual car. First impressions, it's very similar to the Aston, not in terms of colours or anything like that, but it looks what you'd expect. It's a dynamic approach. It looks what we were hoping for in terms of how these cars are going to look physically in the carbon fibre flesh. What I did notice is that you'll have seen the images by now, and obviously with McLaren's launch event that's going to start happening as soon as we've left the premises. Let's face it. Rather than the Haas design, where the sort of rear of the car swoops away, it goes away quite dramatically, the bodywork extends backwards on the McLaren, similar to how the Aston does, but not quite as sort of aggressively. It's not as, the bodywork isn't quite as tightly shrunk around the engine cover. So already, of the three real cars we've seen, three different approaches, which is good, because there was a little bit of a school of thought of, are they all going to look the same? And that's not going to be the case. That's going to be very, very good. And then, yes, the livery, it looks much, much more like, not completely like, but much closer to the Golf livery that McLaren ran in a one-off event, for their sponsor at the Monaco Grand Prix last year. So basically, ever so slightly different orange. You informed me, Luke.
Yeah, it's a slightly different shade of papaya, apparently. So
exactly that, but the main change is it's a much lighter blue, so much more like the Golf livery we said, and that looks, I think, very nice.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think it's one of the liveries that has really stood out through this launch season. I mean, obviously we've got that wonderful Aston Martin livery. We're talking about what's going to be on the cover of Autosport magazine in the coming week, and it's kind of between those two. And you reckon the McLaren, that's going to be the favourite on what you've seen?
I think so, purely because the orange just stands out more than the dark green. That's purely what it is when it comes to literally the ink on the cover of the cover of the magazine.
Oh, there you go. And and McLaren, they're very proud. I mean, they've up to, I think, 45 partners now, Zach Brown said. It is a Golf-looking livery, but apparently Golf haven't updated their sort of like sponsorship or anything like that. It is purely based off the fan feedback they saw in Monaco last year. Everybody loved that livery. Abu Dhabi as well, they ran another tweaked version, and that was really, really popular. So it's gone down really well for McLaren. We also got a chance to talk to the drivers and the technical chiefs as well. Daniel Ricciardo was very refreshed, I think, after his break in Australia. He said he spent 2 weeks staring at a hotel ceiling. He was in quarantine for a little while before finally getting out. I asked him, are you feeling more refreshed? And he said, I feel I'm more attractive. Like, I look more attractive this season. But he was on very good form today, wasn't he, Alex?
He was, and actually for someone who's already very thin, very fit, as a professional athlete, I thought he was looking even more trim. So potentially that 2 weeks that he's spent, he got an exercise bike into that hotel quarantine bike, working out when you wouldn't be ordinarily working out as a Formula One driver, potentially paying off for him. But you're right, he was in an excellent mood, as he always is. He was larking about in his chairs and putting his hands up when Zach Brown was speaking in the presentations and things like that. But what's interesting about that is that was a key thing that Ricciardo and Andreas Seidel noted ahead of his, sort of uptick in form after the summer break last year, contributed towards that famous win at Monza, was that he went off to his house in LA, he had a break, it was able to help him reset. That made him even better in the second half of 2021, potentially going back to Australia, something I know he's spoken to you about, Luke, about how difficult it was not being able to visit his family, not being able to see his homeland, things like that. Potentially that gives him an extra boost, as you say, coming into 2022. So yeah, he was on excellent form, and that's what we like to see from our Formula One drivers. Another
driver who was on excellent form was Lando Norris. Obviously, he's got that new McLaren contract to boot until the end of 2025. He's moved to Monaco. He's been at the Brits. I mean, he's had a very, very busy week. I would like to see him at the Autosport Awards, but we know he enjoyed his British Competition Racing Driver of the Year trophy. Lando, I mean, he's sort of picking up on a very good place from last year. He's really building the momentum. So, I mean, what's sort of the impression you get from him? Because he seemed to me quite content with the way everything is right now, both on and off track.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Luke. We were talking as we were travelling up here this morning. You and I were both at the McLaren Technology Centre, 4 years ago now? Start of 2018, I was at the time covering Formula 2. Lando was, of course, embarking on what would be his only season in that championship, and we've remarked just how much, it's almost like a grow up and a glow up that he's had. He really is, he's looking the part of a Formula 1 driver, as you say, moving to Monaco as well, but inevitably where most of them end up living. But yes, it's because of that. I think it's a combination of things. It's the fact that he is growing up. he has got this long-term contract. He's being paid very well as a Formula One driver, very significantly more than he was on before. But also, he's got the results now. You know, he was always very highly rated. He performed very, very well against Carlos Sainz Jr. But the fact that he effectively led the team last year as Ricciardo was getting up to speed was truly impressive. And I think that that's reflected in his confidence. And from what he was saying today, and from what I would expect of him, there's still more to come. He's still on an upward trajectory.
It's very, very exciting indeed. And obviously the technical chiefs, Andreas Seidel, James Key, we got a chance to talk with them as well about this year's car. And again, there's just a real sort of like quiet confidence about everything they've been doing, but underpinned by everything that we don't really know where everyone's going to be in the pecking order. So everyone's sort of, it's very much smoke and mirrors at the moment. I asked Andreas Seidel, when are we going to see the car on track for the first time? And he said it's yet to be fully defined, but it will be at some point before the first test in Barcelona. But I mean, Alex, going into the season for McLaren, what can they expect? Because we've got the big three of Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari. We know just how good they are, the resources they have. McLaren have always been quite clear about they don't have everything quite in place yet, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But what, to you, will constitute a successful season for McLaren?
A successful season for McLaren would be more wins, more podiums, and a championship fight. But what I think is very interesting is, you know, delving into what was spoken today on stage by particularly Andreas Seidel. Lando Norris hinted at this as well. Seidel, I think at one point said, if I don't know, he said, you know, the aim is to be closer to the car that's on pole position. Now that is quite striking because it's a rules reset moment. Why isn't McLaren potentially thinking that it's going to be the car on pole position? And I wonder whether we're already with McLaren in the stage of expectation management, but for very good reasons. They have made the decision to invest heavily in their facilities. They've got a new wind tunnel, but it's under construction. So this car, the MCL 36, will have had no part in it. We know they've been going to Toyota using the wind tunnel there in Cologne that was built all those years ago. And that's potentially going to be a little bit of difficulty. Is everything going to correlate exactly as the numbers are suggesting that they will, and that will benefit the teams like Red Bull, like Mercedes, like Ferrari, that can do all that in-house? And they know that, especially with Ferrari as well, upgrading in that new simulator, whereas McLaren's is also coming, but it's not here yet. So basically what McLaren are saying is we're still on that rebuilding journey. So it's sensible. We know they're a very sensible team. We know they're a very fun team now with Ricciardo and Norris as well. But yeah, that I think is the key takeaway today is, yes, things are going to be good, or they hope that they were going to be good, but don't expect a total championship challenge. If it does come, great for McLaren. If not, that's their message for today, that they're still planning on getting there.
Definitely expectation management, I think. And yeah, but lots of reasons to be very, I think, positive and hopeful at Woking. The light is fading fast, so we've got a lovely pink sky, actually. That's very nice to see. Alex, thank you very much for joining me. Be sure to stay tuned to Autosport. We've obviously got all of the reaction to all of the car launches over the coming weeks. And yeah, make sure you subscribe. We'll be having all the news analysis right the way up to the start of pre-season testing in Barcelona.